Welcome to Who's in STEM. I'm Ken Ono, your host, and the STEM advisor to the Provost and the Marvin Rosenblum Professor of Mathematics at UVA. Our goal is to evoke flights of imagination and wonder by showcasing the cornucopia of all that is STEM at UVA, the marvelous world of UVA science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, this is our second episode of our third season, and in our last episode, which we kicked off the third season with, we had a great conversation with Professor Paul Torrey about the incredible opportunity for scientific advancement that AI represents for a growing team of astronomers, astrophysicists, statisticians, data scientists, and more. That was our conversation about cosmic AI. Now today, we're going to stick with the AI theme. We're going to talk about the other side. I mean, how do we navigate a rapidly changing world where computers and AI seem to possess superhuman intelligence? And, well, to set the stage, I think many listeners will recognize the next clip from this iconic film, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I think that clip haunts us, and it might be the most famous haunting clip, but there are many others. Let me remind you of the film Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. In that 2003 film, the malevolent AI called Skynet sent machines to Earth to attack people, hoping to destroy human civilization. Although that's the stuff of film, with the rapid evolution and introduction to AI, which is occurring at an extraordinary rate, my head's spinning. I think all of our heads are spinning, both with excitement, but also with fear and worry. It's kind of a twisted version of Oscar Wilde's famous quote, "Life imitates art far more than art imitates life." Fortunately, faculty across UVA have anticipated the need to grapple with some of our pressing questions. How can we ensure that the AI we build is trustworthy, responsible, and an agent for good, benevolence? In other words, how can we establish and embed a system of ethics in our AI tools as their increasing abilities continue to astonish us? So thanks to the generous support of UVA Darden alum David LaCross, the LaCross Institute for Ethical AI in Business at Darden has been created, a very generous gift. And the purpose of this institute is to address these very concerns. So I'm delighted to have with us today the inaugural co-directors here in conversation, Professors Yael Grushka-Cockayne and Raj Venkatesan, to discuss how this exciting new initiative is taking shape. Yael, Raj, welcome to Who's in STEM.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Congratulations. Institutes don't just pop up. It's really a very special day at the university when institutes are founded, and it's a great honor for you to be leading this effort. I guess the best way to get started is tell us about the Institute's mission. Let's just dive right in.
Well, one way to think about it and to start, and one of the inspirations for Dave and Kathy LaCross was Darden's mission itself. Darden, as a business school, has always had at its front and center to not only educate business leaders, but to educate responsible business leaders and to ground them in making responsible decisions for their businesses and for the world around them. And so the Institute is directly aligned with the school's mission. Not only is ethics in every single decision that every business manager makes, but definitely related to AI. And we also take what we call an enterprise perspective or an interdisciplinary perspective. Darden has always cared about that. And the LaCross Institute similarly believes that these ethical AI-related decisions are not just one person's responsibility, the technical lead of an organization, but it is all business leaders that have to have at front and center some of those ethical considerations.
So the same mission of the school gets reflected in the mission of the AI Institute as well. And it is to ask hard questions about responsible deployment of AI in business, which could include bias, misinformation, deep fakes, or even income inequality. So I do some work with women's empowerment, digital empowerment in India, and you can see that there's a lot of bias and misinformation online on WhatsApp. For example, there are forwards on WhatsApp that ask women to give their jewelry and they will be doubled in 2 weeks, or send money to a certain number to get a free tractor.
So this is something like another version of the Nigerian prince who keeps emailing us?
Yeah, don't reply to that, Prince. So you can see that without AI, there is still misinformation, and AI just puts this on supercharge. Right? It just exacerbates this whole issue of bias and misinformation. And add to this, there are other challenges about AI in business that are good as well as bad, and risks with deploying AI in business. The mission of the Institute is to understand how you need to balance the good with the bad, and also how we can use this once-in-a-generation opportunity to reassess the role of technology in business and society, and how we might align the financial and moral incentives to really create a brighter future.
Yeah, I guess that kind of question is why we're here today, right? It's President Ryan's charge to all of us in the university community to not only be great, but also to be good, and really good at being good. And the mission of your institute is like a perfect example of that. You want to be great in business. You want to support economic growth, but you have to be doing it in a benevolent way, the moral. And how do you balance those goals that could be pointing in different directions? So I guess that's the biggest question of all. I think it was the fall of 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT, when it was clear to the world that we've entered the world of AI. It's one thing to have Siri that you can talk to on your phone, but ChatGPT entirely changed and made this issue front and center.
That's exactly the point. So if you remember and you go back to that time, there are many questions that arise with that kind of power. You alluded to this in your introduction, but with great power comes great responsibility, if I can talk and quote Spider-Man. But it's the understanding the opportunity and also some of that fear of the future that encourages us to think more deeply about the set of responsibilities that business leaders have. We have responsibilities all along when we're developing the technology, when we're deciding to provide the technology as available to the masses. We as business leaders or educating business leaders, we believe that this should be a conversation at the table. How does the tech sector work together hand in hand with society to ensure that we benefit from all the great accomplishments that we can strive for these days, but also do so in a responsible manner. It was a havoc, or we all had to kind of reorganize ourselves to consider how we're going to deal with ChatGPT when it was launched. There was a little bit of a moment of panic, but potentially we could have seen that coming and potentially worked with the business leaders to do that in a more seamless manner. But now that we have that in mind, organizations are trying to take the steps, and we're hoping to develop methods and frameworks for them to do it in a more responsible way.
We can also think about this in the terms of short-term and long-term. You can see with the launch of ChatGPT, yes, it made sense for the company, but there are also longer-term issues that are uncertain that they're trying to balance in terms of the growth of this and what effects this has on society, right? And that's what we want our students to understand as well, and to have this essential practice of having value-based conversations that are necessary for society and for the workplace to thrive, right? So you can think of social media firms trying to maximize short-term user engagement because that's going to drive their advertising revenue. But we all know the long-term consequences on society and brand reputation that comes with just maximizing user engagement. So the essential skill for our students and for managers these days in the role of AI is acknowledging our flaws as humans and the challenge we have when making decisions with uncertain data and uncertain futures. And the way we approach this is also to consider what has happened in the past and what can we learn from it. We have certainly seen the wave of the internet and the slowness in understanding all its consequences, and the slowness in regulation has had some challenges. And if we go even further back, when the printing press was first launched, we first got the Salem witch hunt before we got the scientific revolution. So it's important to have this multidisciplinary view where you're looking at stakeholders, different stakeholders, industry leaders, you're bringing in philosophers and students together to think about this in a more multidisciplinary enterprise perspective.
To follow up on your comment about the Salem witch hunt, those were very difficult times. Although that's certainly not our era, we can totally understand how that time would have been very frightening. But I just think about the events of the last few years, and certainly the events over the last few months, where there's so much turmoil, whether it's politics or the fear for the future and the environment. It seems to be that, like, there's catastrophes happening on the planet, in universities. Everywhere you turn, the news seems to be bad. So, Yael and Raj, I want to know, with your institute and your expertise, what do you have to offer us that's uplifting?
Great question, and I really cherish the opportunity to talk to this. I think for me it's grounded in curiosity, part of why I was drawn to academia to begin with, and part of why I enjoy being part of this institution and watching AI evolve, is that it fuels our curiosity. And curiosity can take us in many different ways, and that's, as we react to fear, if we are curious, we can try to think about frightening situations in many different ways. And with the evolution in AI and demonstrating things that are possible that we may have never imagined are possible, it's an invitation to start to think about what could be and is a scary future in perhaps a different way. It's an invitation to learn about something new technology, to imagine ways in which the technology gets infused into our day-to-day in new ways that we haven't conceptualized. And we're pushed maybe from a place of fear, a little bit of fear, but hopefully that fear is combined with some not only willingness to learn and willingness to discuss and converse, but also a curiosity to try and overcome and to say, we can only rely on ourselves, or we must rely on ourselves to push ourselves to find solutions to a better future. Take any one of the challenges that you mentioned, and there are questions related to AI that we can foster, related to the environment, related to policy, definitely related to misinformation that you all were talking about before, related to lifestyle choices, and related to our health, and related to everything that we do. There could be an AI complement or discovery that can push us to come up with better solutions. And that's what we hope that our institution will foster.
And also adding to that is the ability to get this positive future and the bright future also relies on having strong structures and processes and regulations in place. And that's where, with our institute and with the UVA community broadly, we're looking at how to better foster the benefits and the positives from AI, and what kind of systems and processes and structures are needed in business and in society to realize this better future.
So thank you, Raj, Yael. It's wonderful that the LaCross Institute is set up at a time where it seems like the university's leaders actually anticipated this need, right? It takes time to establish an institute, so that the timing has worked out very well for us. I genuinely and deeply hope that the work allows us to restore benevolence, greatness, and goodness, just like President Ryan expects of us. So I bet there's many activities that you're launching, right? So on the one hand, you have faculty conducting research and interfacing with maybe the business community. But there's a flip side. How can others get involved?
Yeah, great question. And really, to your point, the university leaders, President Ryan, our Dean Scott Beardsley, together with Dave and Kathy LaCross, that have seen some of this bubbling up in practice. Dave ran businesses in his past. They really had the insight that this institute should bring together people. This is a convening institute. We organize conferences. We have events and seminars. We encourage people to come to talk and interact with one another across the various disciplines, across the various sectors. Our recent conference that I'll let Raj tell you more about, since he was the chair of the conference, was a great example in December, where we brought together 200 people, but it was really from students to faculty to industry leaders to share and to together paint a picture for what is needed in the future.
And the conference that we organized in December was the value chain of ethical AI. And it had more than 200 people from all around UVA and Charlottesville who were interested in AI.
And who were some of the speakers?
So some of the speakers, we had Madhur Bell, who was from engineering, who at the Cavalier Racing.
We had Madhur on the show. He was fantastic.
We had Kristen Martin, who was an ethicist, who was a PhD student from UVA, who's now a Chad professor at Notre Dame, who came to the conference. We had Tom Davenport, who's a thought leader in AI in business, who spoke at the event as well.
And Raj was a speaker as well.
Oh, yeah, Raj.
He's too humble to mention himself as an expert in AI and marketing.
Thank you. And we had a lot of our faculty who were conducting research in AI across the university, from the Baton School, from McIntyre, from engineering, and from the sciences and Darden. And it was a great event, and I think it was great to see so many people who are interested in AI around the university come in and discuss this topic. And we also termed it value chain of AI because if we had these listening sessions across the university to see what was happening in AI, what were people interested in AI. And it turned out that just like any university, we are doing an eclectic collection of topics. And what really brings it together is to think of AI as a supply chain from the point of raw materials, which is the data, to bigger societal issues like ethics and regulations. So this value chain kind of connects all the different things that you can see happening around the university. And we've continued that with, we just had our FAIR symposium where we award grants to two research teams. And we had more than 19 submissions, and it was a really difficult decision to select. And these were really multidisciplinary teams.
So what are the two projects going to be about?
So the two projects, one is around better algorithms for privacy protection in AI, and another is better algorithms for reducing bias in AI and ensuring AI is effective for every subgroup in the population. And the collaborators were from Darden and from the School of Data Science and from computer engineering. So really a multidisciplinary set of scholars who've come together, and that's something we're really looking forward to, building this community of connections across the university.
And we will continue in the spring with seminars that are open to anybody who wants to get involved to come and attend, to talk about current topics such as DeepSeek and everything else that we see in the news. If they're curious, if they want to hear a multidisciplinary perspective, they should join our mailing list and kind of join the events.
Definitely make sure I'm on that mailing list. AI is actually everywhere. Probably won't come as a surprise that mathematicians and data scientists were almost at the birth of AI. So I'm part of a group called Frontier Math. We have been charged with testing the limits of the mathematical capabilities of the various large language models. And the advances just since October is mind-boggling. Last summer, we were focusing on the question as to whether ChatGPT could earn a medal at the International Math Olympiad, which is an elite high school math test. And by October, we were already in a position where large language models could solve open PhD level problems that took new PhDs 7 years to complete at Ivy League institutions. And the rate at which the AI landscape is changing everywhere is amazing. So, in fact, even the hypothesis that large language model trainings will be a huge percentage of the expected power resources, even that has now come into question with DeepSeek. And not to mention the political ramifications. 85% of the chips made in the world come out of Taiwan, and we're supposed to be very frightened about that. But maybe by July we'll discover that there'll be new discoveries and smarter training that will completely change our worldview. There's no such thing as a status quo right now, and I think it's for this reason it's really important for us to have an institute where people are literally on top, keeping their finger on the pulse of an incredibly rapidly changing environment.
And it's not only the technology, as you mentioned, the rapid evolution of the models themselves and their capabilities. Right. I think what we're all watching and studying is the rapid manner with which companies are able to start utilizing some of these technologies. They seem that they become available pretty readily, and you open a browser, and every day there is something new that is embedding another aspect of AI, and it's that rapid change. We're not used to that, and that is where, especially, one of the roles where our institute can play a role, because it is around how businesses embrace new technology, how we teach our leaders to be agile, how do we think about change, how do we think about changing with our populations, which is really timely.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't spend a little bit of time talking about the two of you, right? We have a large faculty, but the two of you are selected to be these leaders. And so I'm wondering, what led you both? And Raj, maybe I'll start with you. Raj, what led you to not only end up in this role, but end up in a position where you think about AI? I'd be surprised if 10 years ago, when you were early in your career, that you were thinking about ethics and so on and so forth. There must be a path here.
Well, I have been thinking about AI for a long time now.
Okay, then I take that back. I stand corrected.
When I was a computer engineer at the University of Madras in the late 90s, I'm aging myself here, that's when, it was the stage of the AI winter. We were thinking about neural networks and genetic algorithms at that time. And this was the time of Y2K. And I came to the United States as a graduate student at the University of Houston and started working in the business school for an MBA program there, and realized at the time that the things that I learned in computer engineering are getting used in business. And we had there were some nice little applications that could be done using computer science in business. And it also taught me that there is a purpose for all these algorithms that I was learning. And I really liked about humans and psychology, and marketing seemed to be the right spot for all of that. And the first, I'm probably one of the weird ones where the first economics class where I learned about supply and demand, the world started making sense to me, right? And I said, I need to be in this and learn more. And so I've always pursued this side, and I've worked on how technology affects marketing. And from the time of CRM systems to mobile marketing to now AI, the evolution I've just moved with different technologies, but always applying it in the context of marketing.
Well, I graduated with around the same time that Raj described, kind of the mid to late 90s. I graduated with a degree in industrial engineering from Ben Gurion University in Israel. And following my degree, I specialized in information systems. I studied, different coding languages. I studied different artificial intelligence at the time systems like Lisp and the like. And I really enjoyed that. And I went to California and lived in San Francisco for a while selling, as you mentioned, Raj, enterprise resource planning systems and working in sales engineering with organizations to think about their processes and how they leverage technology in their working processes. It led me to want to go back to school. I was always very driven to be back in academia. And really my thesis that I identified from working in the private sector was around how decisions get made at the higher level of an organization when it comes to do with planning their resources, forecasting their needs, and making these decisions, which is really where I stand today. A lot of my work is in the intersection of forecasting and decision making, and that's where the AI starts to creep in. Forecasting, when we talk about whether experts are doing the forecasting or we talk about systems doing the forecasting, that's what AI is doing in many instances, is predictions, different prediction tasks. Even large language models at the heart of them have prediction in them. How do we predict the next word, the next sentence, the next paragraph, and the like? And so that led me to where I am today, where I study a lot to do with decision making and forecasting.
Thank you. When I hear you described large language models and AI as wonderful and rapid predictors, right? AI, on the one hand, offers essentially almost immediate, instantaneous access to the accumulation of human knowledge, one that's already scary. But then also combining that with the ability to make strong predictions is a wonderful thing. But one of the reasons why we have to worry about the implementation of these tools is that predictions aren't always correct. We don't want to get led into the abyss because a large language model makes a prediction that is either inaccurate or flawed based on inappropriate assumptions.
And it's not only assumption. AI models rely on data. They were trained on data. Forecasting very often relies on data. And so how does that data inform our predictions about the future and then the actions that we take? It's true that we see this pretty clearly with AI. However, we're working with a lot of expert forecasters, individual human expert forecasters, human judges. When we predict the future, we often rely on our own intuition, our own data, the data that is in us that we've trained our forecasting capabilities on. And so we see it, and we've been talking about it in the context of human forecasters. How do you kind of think about your biases, are aware of them, and how do you make predictions for the future, knowing what you know about your past?
Right. Well, I want to dig in a little bit here, Yael, right? So let's not be a professor for a moment. Let's be a marketer. Let's give us an example of this work at play, real-world example that we all get.
Of my research, real-world example. So I have a project that will maybe bring something to life related to expert judges forecasting the future. I've worked with an NFL team that collects scout assessments of their players, which you can think about as forecasts, actually. It's a form of forecasting. I'm forecasting as a scout the success of a future player. And I've worked myself and my co-authors have worked with this team to think about how you take those assessments and how you actually quantify them to understand more about the uncertainty that is expressed through this assessment. How do you combine multiple? If I have 5 scouts assessing one specific player, how do I combine their opinions when their opinions are not always quantitatively provided up front? So the forecasts that we are given are somewhat abstract on a scale, on more of a categorical scale. And you can think about this problem in many different contexts. It's the fact that we studied it in an NFL and scouting context is fun, but and of course, it's a domain with a lot of money that gets spent on choosing these players adequately. But any hiring decision, any tenure decision in academia, any assessment of scientific proposals or grants or innovations, they all go through a process where multiple individuals express an opinion on somewhat of a qualitative scale, and the decision maker is left to try and make sense out of it. And our work helps provide a framework for doing that.
Raj, same question.
So, have you heard of Toys R Us?
It was once a great toy store.
Once a great toy store. And have you gone to toysrus.com?
Never.
Because, that's the reason why they don't exist anymore. So my research, which I worked on, showed that firms should appreciate customers who shop across all their channels, the store, website, the mobile app, and firms should make all channels available to consumers, not just try to push consumers to just stay in the store, but to keep them engaged for as long as possible. And so we showed how multi-channel shoppers, as we term them, are more profitable and stay longer with the firm than shoppers who come to only one channel. But the idea with stores is also that you are going online and shopping in the same store. If you are using the store's app, or if you are going to the store, in different occasions, you're choosing that store over other options that were possible. So you're showing more loyalty, and you're using that store for different things. The app could be for repeat purchases, the store could be just for exploration, and the website could be for comparing products and their features. So people who are using the product across different channels are really the ones who are bought into the products and are valuable. Of course, this is an average effect. It can change by industry. Could be that airlines, you're normally shopping it in the app, but you can also see I fly Delta a lot. But nowadays, I just book on the app. I'm not going to the website anymore, or I look in Google Flights and then find where Delta a good option for the flight, and then I open my app and book straight in the app. It's much more convenient. So that's kind of what we did at the time, is to embrace different options and make all options available to consumers. The same way with AI. Now, a lot of companies are implementing AI, and they're starting to see benefits in the back office in terms of improving the processes. All the examples that are coming in now which makes sense, is efficiency improvements. But you'll start seeing the ones that embrace this and have AI that is customer-facing, really allowing the AI to be the chatbot of your company. Firms that are embracing new technology and enabling these technologies for their consumers are going to cultivate better customer relationships and going to be stronger brands in the future.
So thank you, Yael and Raj. This has been a great conversation. Time is running short here, but I do have one last question before we begin to wrap up. And the fact that we are talking about AI won't be surprising to anyone. Turn on the news, everywhere you turn, someone's talking about AI. But I think it's important to point out that here at the University of Virginia, it's not just talk, because everyone's supposed to talk about it. Can you comment on that?
Yes. Together with Scott Acton, I'm really honored to serve as one of the provost's advisors on AI, and we work closely with his office and the individuals there. There are investments made across grounds that are really exciting, professorships that are being offered to coordinate the efforts across the different schools, themes that are being identified, for instance, AI in the medical space and in the healthcare domain, the School of Data Science, Engineering, the college. So there are serious coordinated efforts from the provost office to encourage different ways to access AI and to get involved. And we're really ahead of the curve in many ways by coordinating these efforts and putting together an AI at UVA umbrella organization that will allow folks to join and flourish.
So our time is up, but I think it's important to talk a little bit about both of you as non-academics. One fun fact. Raj, tell us something about yourself.
Well, I'm very active in tennis after the COVID especially. So I play tennis a lot. In fact, I have a game today. I'm not so sure. I think today is going to be a tough match.
And are you a fan of the UVA tennis team? I think they're pretty. We had a couple people in the Olympics.
Oh, yes. I think UVA tennis is the best. I mean, it is the best experience to see such great players. And you saw the women's tennis. I mean, Emma Navarro did very well with the recent Australian Open, and Diana Collins has been great. And I think the men's too are doing very well. The team is poised to be doing well. They beat Texas just over this weekend, which was a great game. So love UVA tennis.
Go Who's. Yael, fun fact.
I do love running, so I'm a jogger. I like watching television and movies. I'm knee-deep into everything that is current, and I like to watch all the Oscar movies before the Oscar ceremony.
A tip?
So.
Do you have a tip for us?
I mean, this year is extraordinary, really. The quality of the movies is really, really high, and the girl power in the movies is impressive. So lots of strong female roles, which is really exciting to see. And I have a little fetish for shoes that I'm known for. So,
oh my gosh, I do see. Oh, whoa.
Yes.
What do you call those shoes?
Platform pink and white plaid shoes, I would say. Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have both of you. Thank you for being on Who's in STEM. All of us wish the LaCross Institute Godspeed in its important and vital mission. Please do your best to help keep AI benevolent. I think there's no doubt it will be a tool to streamline and make what seems impossible, humanly impossible, possible. And, well, it should go without saying, but I have to say it anyway. You are fulfilling President Ryan's mission to be both great and good. So thank you for your service, and I'm Ken Ono, STEM advisor to the Provost, and the Marvin Rosenblum Professor of Mathematics, and you've been listening to Who's in STEM.
Who's in STEM is a production of WTJU 91.1 FM and the Office of the Provost at the University of Virginia. Who's in STEM is produced by Catherine Kosseboom, Claire Curzon, Benjamin Larson, Mary Gardner-McGee, Katie Nichols, and Rhea Verma. Our music is composed and performed by Robert Schneider and John Ferguson of Apples in Stereo. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Listen and subscribe to Who's in STEM on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back soon with another conversation about scientific and technological innovation at the university.